I just got a Tetrix base set here, and I thought I'd make a video demonstrating how this thing works and how it works with Lego NXT. With the base set you get a variety of parts here. This here is called a channel. This is called an angle beam. You get some flat bars. You get tubes in various lengths. You get 2 each of these kinds of gears in 2 different sizes. 4 wheels. You get about 4 of these plates here. You get some small brackets. You get about a dozen of these angle brackets. You get 2 each of RC or radio controlled servo motors, and you get 2 DC motors. Now, to give you an idea of the size of this is a Lego beam here, and you can see that these channels are actually fairly big in comparison to the beam. Another interesting point, in Legos we have something called a Lego unit, and that's the distance between a hole in a beam. So this is 1 Lego, 2 Lego, 3 Lego, 4 Lego, and etc. In Tetrix, I guess you would call this a Tetrix. This is 1 Tetrix, 2 Tetrix, 3 Tetrix, and so on. What's interesting is that when you compare a Tetrix to a Lego, it's 2 Legos to 1 Tetrix. So as a result, this is going to make it very easy to bolt Lego parts to Tetrix parts. The hard points that they demonstrate on the Lego education site may not be all that necessary. Tools that come with the set here, you get 4 different Allen wrenches at different size. You get a 7/64, which is used for driving these socket screws. You get a 3/32, which is used for driving the set screw on the motor hub. You get a 5/64, which is used for driving these button screws, or I would call it a round head screw. And you get a 1/16 Allen wrench, which is used for driving the set screws on the axle collars. What you do not get is a 5/16 wrench, which is used for the nuts, and you're going to need a Phillips screw for driving the pivot screw on the pivot point, pivot bearing they call that. Now, the way this system works here, you have a piece of channel. You see you have some large holes here. The bushings go into the large holes, and then you run the axle through the bushings, and you end up with a very strong pivot point. The way you connect wheels to an axle is you have to have something here called a split clamp. The way that works is you put that on the end of the axle, tighten up the screw, then the wheel or gear can be placed on the end of that, and you put a couple of screws in there to hold it in place. End up with a wheel, and you can put that in there, and you would put a collar on the end of that axle, and you have an Allen wrench for that, which you tighten up, and you have a wheel. Now, to further demonstrate how the wheels and gears work here, you may want to put a wheel and a gear together at the same time. In order to do that, you have to have something here called a spacer, and what that does, it fits right in there. You then have these extra long screws which go through. The gear goes on into that. Then the split clamp would go on the very end. Tighten it all up. Axle goes right there. Now we have a gear and a wheel ready to go into a pivot point or channel or something like that. Then you can put your motors on here to drive this wheel. Now the set comes with two DC motors. This is the actual motor part. This is the gear head. Reduces the speed, increases the torque. And this is the shaft coming out of here. You have to use a motor hub in order to connect your gears and wheels to the motor. Understand that the axle is of a different diameter than the shaft coming out of the motor. So the way the system works, you have your gear, you mount it up to a motor hub, put a couple of screws in there, you would then connect this up, use a different Allen wrench to tighten that up. It then inserts into this motor mount. The motor mount actually goes around the gear housing. Then you would mount this arrangement, and you can adjust the motor forward and backwards in order to align the gears, and you rotate the motor in order to adjust the meshing of the gears. And what you're doing, you adjust it so you get just a little wee bit of play. You got your gears lined up right there. Tighten up the nuts. And you're ready to go. Now the tubes, you get a variety of tubes of different lengths here, and the way you work with the tubes, you have something here called a tube clamp, which fits on the end. You would tighten that up. Then from there, you can bolt on various parts. This here could be used as a lever. You can bolt gears on the end of that. You can bolt wheels on the end of that. And by using the spacer, you can bolt both on the end of it. This is a servo motor that you get with the base set. These are RC or radio controlled servo motors. This particular one you can see is a high-tech HS475HB. And the way you connect it up is this is a Tetrix part. It's called the horn, and it fits on the end of the shaft of the servo motor, and your Tetrix parts connect up to there. The way you would use this set is you connect your horn up to what they call a servo joint pivot bracket. With this set you get something called a pivot bearing, and let me just show you what this is. This is an actual ball bearing, and it has a shoulder on it here. And the way that works, you would press it into that hole right there. And the screw. This is the bracket for mounting the servo motor. Goes in there. Fits in there. Put a nut on the end of that. And that's actually a Phillips screw, that Phillips screwdriver you need for that. And you end up with a pivot joint. Now you're going to mount the motor, which goes in approximately like that. And then you have to spring this out a little bit to get that to go onto the shaft. Now, one thing you need to be aware of is that these servo motors can only turn 180 degrees, so You can see there's a stop right there, and there's a stop way down there.